Non-judgment, the gaze of compassion. Why do we need to practice non-judgment? Imagine this. You see someone arrive late to a meeting. Instantly, you feel annoyed. Before even asking for the reason, you've already decided they're being disrespectful. A person dressed in an unusual way walks past you on the street. You've never met them, know nothing about them, yet your mind flashes with a feeling of prejudice. Or when a loved one makes a mistake, before they can explain, you've already spoken words of blame. And then, even with yourself, you are not free from judgment. Why am I so weak? I should have done better. Why do I keep being like this? We judge the world, and we also refuse to spare ourselves. Living in a mind that constantly labels, divides, compares, and categorizes, we feel more distant, heavier, and lonelier. The more we judge, the more we feel that no one understands us. The more we evaluate, the more we feel no one is worthy of love. But have we ever asked ourselves, is judgment simply an unconscious habit? Does it make us happier, or only deepen the wounds in our hearts? And is there another way? A way of living where we do not need to judge, yet can still feel at peace? Part 1. Judgment. The psychology behind it and the root of suffering. We judge almost by reflex. In just a glance, a word, or a small incident, the mind has already labeled, categorized, evaluated, and formed an attitude. It happens so fast we don't even realize we've judged someone or even ourselves. Judgment has become part of how we navigate the world, like a defense mechanism. It gives us the illusion of control, that we know right from wrong, know who's worthy or unworthy, know what has value and what doesn't. Yet in truth, many times in life, this so-called knowing doesn't make us better. Instead, it limits us. Judgment is the process of the mind assigning a value, good or bad, right or wrong, better or worse, onto a person, a situation, or ourselves. It's an evaluation that comes with an attitude, agreement or rejection, acceptance or exclusion. It is different from awareness. Awareness is clear seeing, like a mirror, perceiving without attachment or division. Judgment is tinted with emotion, either clinging to or pushing away. It is the interference of the ego. For example, when we see someone crying, if we are aware, we simply see they are crying. Perhaps they are in pain. But when we judge, we may think they're too weak, crying over something so small, or they're being fake. And when the mind is accustomed to judging, everything we see is colored by preconceptions. Why do we judge? Judgment doesn't arise randomly. It comes from a chain of habits and wounds imprinted deep in the subconscious. 1. Because the mind fears uncertainty, it wants control. The human mind dislikes unpredictability. We want to know and classify things to feel safe. So when we encounter something unfamiliar, different from us, or something we don't understand, instead of opening our hearts, we rush to label it. Naming something gives us a brief sense of ease, but it's only temporary. It's not born from understanding, only from the thin layer of control. 2. Because the ego needs validation, judging others can reinforce the ego. Oh, I'm better than them. Oh, I'm right, they're wrong. Oh, or even, I'm awakened, they're ignorant. But the more the ego needs reinforcing, the more insecure it becomes. And the more insecure it feels, the more it judges as a way to self-soothe. This cycle runs silently in the background of our minds. 3. Because we have not healed old wounds. Judgment often arises strongest when we touch something that once hurt us. Oh, if we were once looked down upon, we may easily look down on others. Oh, if we were once judged, we may judge first to avoid being judged. In other words, judgment is often the voice of the part within us that has not yet been held and comforted. How does judgment make us suffer? Every time we judge, we build a wall. Between ourselves and others. Between ourselves and the truth. Sometimes between ourselves and our own soul. Judgment makes us react instead of empathize. It boxes things in instead of listening. It imposes instead of being curious. It narrows the mind, weighs down the heart, and closes off our emotional world. Sometimes judgment isn't spoken, but it appears in our eyes, in our expression, in the way we turn away, and the other person feels it. We think we are silent, but in truth, we've sown distance. The human mind, when freed, is like a still, clear lake. Everything passing by is reflected with perfect clarity and truth. But every time we judge, it is like dropping a stone into that lake. The water ripples, the reflection distorts. And not only do we fail to see others clearly, we no longer see ourselves clearly either. So, how many times in a day do we judge without knowing it? How many relationships have lost sincerity just because of the invisible labels we place on others? And how many times in life have we hurt ourselves because of our own lack of compassion toward ourselves? Part 2. Non-judgment as the path back to compassion. Many people think that non-judgment is a state of emptiness or apathy, that when we no longer distinguish between right and wrong, good and bad, we will live carelessly, lose discernment, and have no energy to act. In truth, non-judgment is not the refusal to analyze. It is the refusal to condemn. It does not prevent us from recognizing what is wrong. Rather, it helps us see the root of the wrong without stirring blame or resentment. It does not force us to love everyone, but it invites us to open our hearts wide enough so that we don't need to hate anyone. Non-judgment is the foundation of true compassion. In Buddhism, compassion is not pity. Compassion is a form of deep understanding and unconditional love. A person can only truly love when they understand the roots of suffering. And to understand, we must walk through the first gate, non-judgment. When we stop labeling, he's terrible, she's fake, they're completely wrong, we give ourselves the chance to listen. Where do they come from? What have they gone through? Why did they choose to act this way? And we will see. Behind an angry person is a heart that was once abandoned. Behind someone who often lies is a soul that was once punished for telling the truth. Behind a controlling person is a child who once lived in deep insecurity. In the very moment we stop judging and start listening, compassion begins to arise. That love doesn't need to be given by anyone. It has always been there, waiting for us to remove the walls of control. Non-judgment toward oneself is the truest form of self-love. We often think we only judge others, but in reality, the person we judge the most is ourselves. Self-judgment, under the disguise of wanting to be better, is actually a subtle form of violence. It doesn't help us improve. It only makes us more fearful, rigid, and disconnected from our true selves. Loving ourselves is not indulging ourselves. Loving ourselves is being present with ourselves when we are wrong, like a kind friend. It is telling ourselves, I'm tired. It's okay to make mistakes. Let's sit down, take a breath, and try again. When we stop judging ourselves, we finally understand what unconditional love feels like. A vast heart is one that no longer seeks to win. Teacher Min Niem once said, "We only stop judging when we have suffered enough and understand that everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about." Judgment is the expression of a mind that wants to win, wants control, wants to be right. Compassion is the expression of a mind that knows it has also made mistakes, also been weak, and therefore knows how to embrace the weaknesses in others. When we no longer need to be right, no longer need to be above anyone, no longer need to prove anything, only then does our heart truly expand. And in that very moment, compassion is no longer something we must practice to attain. It simply flows naturally from within us. 3 practices to cultivate non-judgment. 1. Pause before reacting. Each time a judgment arises in your mind, pause. 1 second, 1 breath, 1 moment of stillness. Then ask yourself, what in me is being triggered? Am I truly seeing this person? Or am I seeing an old wound within myself? This pause is the foundation of wisdom. 2. Practice I don't know everything. When you look at someone and feel the urge to judge, silently say to yourself, I don't know their whole story. I haven't lived in their circumstances. I might have been like them, or could be like them, in another situation. Simply holding that humility in your heart is already planting a seed of compassion in your consciousness. 3. Compassion toward yourself. When you notice your own mistakes, pause and remind yourself, I'm just a human being learning how to live rightly. A small act, but enough to interrupt the cycle of self-condemnation and to open a gentle space for healing. A non-judgmental heart is like the earth. It does not choose only the clean things to support. It does not reject anyone, even those rough, thorny, or unpolished. It simply stays there, quiet and steady. Whoever steps on it is supported. Whoever falls on it is embraced. And compassion is exactly that kind of silent, unconditional embrace. Part 3. Living a non-judgmental life is the root of peace. Every person we meet in life is a lesson that comes to teach us. Every unpleasant moment in the day is a mirror for us to see into our own mind. And every time the urge to judge arises, it is an opportunity to return to our most original self. Living without judgment is not living in avoidance. It is living more deeply, deeper into reality, deeper into yourself, deeper into the human heart. When we no longer demand that everything go our way, we begin to see the true colors of the world. We replace labels with curiosity. We replace prejudice with empathy. Instead of straining to separate and divide, we relax into the vast space of understanding and love. Non-judgment does not mean indifference. Some people misunderstand. If I don't judge, how can I teach my children? How can I distinguish good from evil? But judgment and discernment are two different things. We can recognize a wrong action without hating the person who made it. We can set clear boundaries without attacking or punishing. We can say no without closing the door of the heart. The strength of compassion lies not in harshness, but in steadiness. Steadiness so firm that it doesn't need to react, and yet still sees clearly what needs to be done. Practicing non-judgment daily. Living without judgment is not a state we reach overnight. It is a daily practice, starting with small things. When you see someone behave strangely, silently think, I don't know their story. When you make a mistake, tell yourself, this too shall pass. I am learning how to live. When someone criticizes you, breathe and see if there is something in it worth listening to, instead of instantly defending or denying. When a thought of judgment arises, pause and simply observe what your mind is doing. Little by little, each day, the surface of your inner lake begins to settle, and you start to see everything more clearly, more truthfully, not just in the way you want it to be,